Mavs fans, what's going on? Welcome into NBA Now from Chat Sports. Today, as usual, I'm going to be breaking down all the Dallas Mavericks news and rumors floating around Twitter, floating around all of the internet. And we're starting out with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, the newest Dallas Mavericks, set to wear number 9 for the Mavs. Obviously, he was just waived by the Charlotte Hornets after the trade deadline. Some thought, hey, maybe they'll dump him, maybe they'll trade him. They didn't, so they said, okay, we're going to buy your contract out and let you go play for a playoff team. And Kidd-Gilchrist almost immediately signed with the Dallas Mavericks. They emerged as suitors pretty early on in the chase, and then they secured him. He's only 26 years old, a great defender, hasn't played a lot this year because really, in all honesty, he just fell out of Charlotte's rotation because they're not going for much, and he was an older guy compared to the rest of their roster, and they just decided he did not have a place on the team. Now, when he did play, here were the numbers he put up: 4 points per game, 2.9 rebounds, only 0.8 assists, and then he shot 29.4% from 3. However, he was known to make the occasional corner three-pointer, and that might still be the case here in Dallas. Now, I don't think he's going to start right away. I don't think he'll start almost ever unless there's an injury kind of situation. But when it comes down to it in crunch time, depending on who we're playing against, I could see him being in there in crunch time to defend a good wing or a good power forward on the other team, and it could look something like this. Of course, you've got your dynamic duo in the backcourt of Luka Doncic and Tim Hardaway Jr., a great duo of offensive firepower. Dorian Finney-Smith and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, 2 guys with 3 names, 2 guys who can defend multiple positions, and 2 guys who can knock down a corner 3. Obviously, Finney-Smith does it better, a whole lot better than Michael Kidd-Gilchrist does, and then you play KP at the 5 in this situation. Now, when you look at the newest wing defenders, the wing kind of guys that can defend other 3s and even 2s on this team, now you've got 4 really reliable guys. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been good on the defensive end, guarding other shooting guards. Dorian Finney-Smith, of course, as we said, guards everything from point guards to power forwards. Justin Jackson, he's okay, not great. He's had his struggles. We all know how we feel about him. We'll talk about him a little bit more later. And then now you get Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who you can throw at other defenders or other wings as well. Now, before I get into what Rick Carlisle had to say about MKG, I want to remind you to go check out Pro Flowers because, in case you forgot, Valentine's Day is coming up. Don't let it sneak up on you. Be ready to go with Pro Flowers. Chatsports.com/flowers will get you 15% off any order today. You get flowers, a little bear, some candy, whatever it may be. You don't have anything for Valentine's Day yet? Pro Flowers is the place to go. Now let's tell you what Rick Carlisle had to say about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. He says he's a guy that we've liked for a long time. Obviously, he was a number 2 overall pick at one point, so that was really important. He's a guy we liked for a long time. He's a great competitor, a great defender, and a hell of a rebounder. We're constantly looking for athletic guys that compete hard. He's really everything that we try to be about here in Dallas. And that last line is so important because I think this really shows that the Mavs and Rick Carlisle are advocating for this guy. They truly believe in him. Now, when they acquired Willie Cauley-Stein from the Golden State Warriors, Rick didn't have this much high praise for Willie Cauley-Stein, and we've seen Cauley-Stein's fallen out just a little bit. He doesn't play consistent minutes. I think MKG is going to come in and play an immediate role right away. Now, Rick also said MKG could play some power forward and some center minutes. So we look at the power forwards that the Mavs have on the roster. Porzingis, Maxi Kleber plays some 4. Dorian Finney-Smith's been playing some 4, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist now. So you get 2 bigger, really true power forward kind of guys in Porzingis and Kleber. And then 2 guys who are a little undersized. Kidd-Gilchrist is 6'7", Dorian Finney-Smith the same there. And they go in and are going to have to check some power forwards throughout the games. So biggest question of the day: are you happy with the MKG signing? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I mean, I don't know how you can't be. He's an extra guy. He comes in, he can defend well, he can rebound well, and I do think his offensive game is on the up and up. He's only 26 years old. So you're going to get hit with the YouTube ad break here. That's fine. Scroll down, reply to the pinned comment. And now we got to talk about poor Ryan Broekhoff. Obviously, he got cut just to make some room for Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. And here's the thing. The Mavs signed Broekhoff a couple years ago. Nobody really thought anything of it. They didn't even think he'd make the roster. Comes in, shoots lights out, and then all of a sudden, he has a little bit of a role in the rotation this year. Not so much last year. He started playing well this year just because he could knock down the jumpers, but look, he didn't have as much guaranteed money as a lot of guys, so it made him really easy to cut and then just bring in Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Obviously just his second year in the league, but he is older. However, I think he's going to find a home. Apparently, Olympiacos overseas is looking at him. I do think some teams in the NBA should consider him because he's a knockdown shooter, and who doesn't need knockdown shooters? He's been averaging 4.2 points per game, 2.5 boards, and 0.6 assists this year with the Dallas Mavericks, shooting 39.2% from three. When he got consistent minutes, you knew he could come in, make a couple threes, and then go right back to the bench. Now, when you do look at it, the Mavs still have a lot of great shooters on this team. Broekhoff was one of them, but they're going to be just fine. Seth Curry this year is shooting 42.8% from three. He's just been lights out, especially since Luka Doncic got hurt. Tim Hardaway Jr. is 40.1% from three, something I never expected to happen. He's been a consistent and reliable source of offense. Maxi Kleber at 38.2. Dorian Finney-Smith right behind him at 38.1. And then DeLon Wright, although he's not taking a lot, he's making a good amount of the ones that he does take at 37.1% from beyond the three-point arc for DeLon Wright. Now, when you look at the guys that I believe the Mavs were considering to waive to make some room for Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, these are the names that were in there. Justin Jackson, he's obviously on his rookie contract. He does have an option for next year. He could be right back. Courtney Lee, off the books next year, but he's making a lot of money this year, so it made him a little harder to cut. And I'll be honest, in that Charlotte game, in the Wizards game, he had some really consistent, really some good minutes for the Mavs, and Courtney Lee looked like an important veteran piece. And also, he's been good as a leader in the locker room, I think. He's been a good veteran voice to have, and that'll be valuable come playoff time. And then, of course, you had Ryan Broekhoff, who they did decide to cut. Justin Jackson, he's averaging the most points per game, but how efficient has he really been? He's been tough to watch, and he's kind of tough to watch on defense. Courtney Lee's shooting 54% from three, but I didn't include that number in the top three-point shooters because he hasn't played enough to really make that make sense, but he's looked good. I do like Courtney Lee. However, Ryan Broekhoff is the one who's gone, and I'm very sad about it, but I think it was what needed to happen. But what do you think? Who should the Mavs have waived to sign Michael Kidd-Gilchrist? It's probably one of these three, Justin Jackson, Courtney Lee, or Broekhoff, of course, who did get waived, but maybe you think they should have cut Justin Jackson. Let me know in the comment section below. Maybe you think they should have cut Courtney Lee. Let me know why in the comment section below. And now we'll move on to our next rumor, and that is Moe Harkless. Could this be another guy the Mavs are targeting in the buyout market? Obviously, he got traded to the New York Knicks in that Marcus Morris deal, and it was a pretty interesting pickup by the Knicks. I didn't really think they were going to look at him. He is averaging 5.5 points per game, 4 boards, and assists, and he is shooting 37% from three. Now, to recap that Marcus Morris trade, of course, Morris went to the Clippers, Moe Harkless went to the Knicks, and then, Jerome Robinson also went to the Washington Wizards. Just all kinds of shuffling going on there. Isaiah Thomas to the Clippers. He's off the team now. Moe Harkless, though, he's a good piece on a playoff team. We saw him in Portland last year, had some really good minutes. We saw him even with the Clippers this year, have some important minutes. He can defend threes and fours, and he can knock down threes. But now he's kind of getting wasted away in New York, where everyone's getting wasted away right now because they're not making the playoffs. Now, before I get into where this rumor came from, let me remind you to go to Pro Flowers, because Valentine's Day is coming up. You need to be ready. You need to save some money. Go to chatsports.com/flowers. 15% off any order when you use that link. Get yourself some flowers, some chocolates, some teddy bears, whatever it may be to give your significant other on Valentine's Day. Pro Flowers is the place to go. Now, this quote came from Bleacher Report. It says, from Bobby Marks, there's a good chance that Harkless gets bought out, but that might not be until the end of February, ESPN's Bobby Marks reported. Marks listed the Dallas Mavericks as a potential landing spot if he does become available. Now, Harkless is a guy that I was interested in trading for at the deadline. He's a guy that I would have been interested in trading, picking up in the buyout market. Now they got Kidd-Gilchrist, so maybe it's a little bit up in the air. But if somehow they do land Moe Harkless in the buyout market, they're going to have to waive another guy. So I picked 3 to choose from here, and here are the names. It's Justin Jackson again, Courtney Lee, and then Willie Cauley-Stein, I think, is another guy that really could be considered to be bought out. However, I don't want to see him go. I like what Cauley-Stein has done, especially against the Utah Jazz. He looked great. I think he provides some really valuable minutes to this team if Carlisle gives him the consistent minutes. Courtney Lee, a good veteran. We just talked about him. I'm starting to like what I'm seeing from him on the court, and he plays defense. He plays really hard, and come playoff time, that voice in the locker room is going to be super important. So that leaves Justin Jackson, who plays the same exact position as Moe Harkless, and he's not as good of a defender, and he hasn't been as good offensively. I think Justin Jackson's a great guy. He does a lot of great stuff around the community. He's been really, really awesome to see on the court at times, but he's fading fast. His stock is dropping really fast. I used to be really high on him, and now I'm a lot lower on him. I think he'd be the player that they'd have to cut if Moe Harkless is an option for the Mavs in the buyout market. But what player would you like to see the Mavs target in the buyout market? Maybe it's a guy that's already out there. Maybe it's a guy who hasn't been bought out yet. Let me know in the comment section below, and that's how we're going to end today's show.